Welcome to Truckee Talks. I'm your host, Maya Schneider. California, with rugged mountains and rolling foothills, majestic forests and green valleys, dry summers and mild winters, is the home and vacation destination of millions of people. But these qualities, which create wonderful views and a peaceful living environment, also create the most severe wildlife conditions in the world. Each year, thousands of acres of California wildland and hundreds of homes are destroyed during a fire season that lasts from May to October in other regions of the state all year long. Many people don't realize that they face such wildlife danger, but if you live in the foothills, the grasslands, or the mountains of California, you are at risk. The purpose of tonight's Truckee Talks is to assess and mitigate our risks. To help assess our risks, we have John Holcomb, Division Chief with the Tahoe National Forest, and Doug Ranella, Battalion Chief, California Department of Forestry. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Nice to have you both here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
People accuse me of just having men on uniform in the show just for my sake, but it's actually a really good thing that you're both here, and I appreciate it. This is going to be an interesting season. What can you tell us about how it started out so far?
Well, it seems like we started having fires a lot earlier than we normally do, and our fire danger rating, which is kind of our mechanism for tracking comparisons to other years, is running at all-time high or right with all-time high. So it's not looking real good for us right now as far as the wildland fires are concerned.
Yeah, Doug, you're just relocating here. Congratulations on your new job.
Thank you.
As you take a look around in Truckee and the Tahoe region, what do you see and what are you concerned about?
We've had a very warm, dry, windy spring, and the fire conditions are much more like, say, July or possibly even early August.
Yeah.
And we're very concerned. We brought more forces on earlier to fight the fires that we've already future fires.
The rainfall, I think, according to the Tahoe National Forest website, our rainfall this year was only 43% of normal. We know that we had a lousy ski season. We didn't have anything to ski on, so we imagine there wasn't anything to count for rain as well. Should we be thinking about an increased fire danger in terms of, for instance, home insurance? Should people be thinking about upping their home insurance? Have we reached that stage?
I would say that you always want to make sure that your home is insured properly, and now may be a good time to check with your insurance agent.
Yeah, always a good time to take a look, make sure that you've got enough coverage.
There's no doubt that the potential is there. The key thing is whether we get the fire starts, and the public can help keep those to a lower level, and the other part of that is lightning, and we never can control that. So some real dry years we get lucky and we just don't have starts, and now it's just a matter of if we get the starts, the fires are going to get big. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
We in the second half of tonight's show, we're going to be talking specifically about things that homeowners can do to protect their property, protect their home.
That is the best insurance.
Truly, yeah, making sure that you've got defensible space around your home and being prepared. Let's talk a little bit about historically. The last large drought, I believe, was 1986 through 94. A lot of dead trees in the Tahoe Basin were as a result of that. The trees were weakened, the bark beetles came in and took advantage of that. A number of trees throughout the Tahoe Basin, but also extending past the basin, that are dead or dying. Has there been any mitigation to remove those dead and dying trees? Do they represent additional fuel that could be a problem?
Yes, they have increased the fuel loading and available fuels. And again, that what we call the live to dead fuel ratio has now been slanted more not in our favor. And we're concerned about that. We've supplemented with additional forces in certain parts of the state to mitigate some of that. And we'll just say we're prepared, but anything's possible.
John, there's so many different landowners, if you will, in the Tahoe Basin, some federal, some state, some county, some town, some private. Do you know anything about any sort of activities that those different owners are doing in terms of clearing out that area? Or
There's ongoing processes. I know that the Tahoe National Forest has put themselves in a good position as far as having started doing fuels treatments even before this last year, even before the National Fire Plan has allowed us to even do more and add resources and equipment. But along with the area of the Tahoe Donner, I know has done a lot of work. So that there is ongoing work in some of the new subdivisions that are being built in the area as far as fuel break work. And I know that there are proposals that are out there for getting grant money from the National Fire Plan to do even more work. So that's kind of ongoing. Some of the work that's been done already with the needle cast and having projects within some of the subdivisions where they have needle cast days and getting rid of that stuff will be going, and I think that you'll see more and more of that as we move ahead in the years to come.
Does that make an impact when homeowners associations do that?
There's no doubt about it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Right. North Star is another great cooperator who has developed a fuel break. And also we have cooperators over in the Lake Tahoe Basin that are also working with Tahoe Regreen and some fire safe councils that, while we're making a dent, admittedly it's a small one, but we are making those efforts.
Now sitting here in the studio, we've got a representative from the National Forest, a representative from California, and our next segment we'll have local fire. What kind of cooperative efforts go on between your agencies? And I know this is putting you on the spot, Doug, being new up to this area, but what goes on in terms of fire protection and fire response between the two different agencies, California and federal?
Being new here, I'm extremely impressed with the cooperation amongst all the different fire agencies, both federal, state, and the locals. There's a statewide mutual aid plan, and we've had meetings all week reviewing all those processes, and we're ready for whatever comes our way.
And in addition, just so folks know, the Emergency Communications Center, Command Center in Grass Valley dispatches all of our resources. So that's kind of one entity where we're all the time working together and proceeding together and talking together. And Doug and I attend meetings together, and that happens with the fire chief here and other folks. We're kind of every month at least getting in face-to-face conversations about coordinating and making sure about the kinds of resources we have and the kind of response we're going to make.
Not knowing, of course, what kind of fire season we're going to have, but just looking at what we're looking at in terms of the sort of fuel that's out there right now, the kind of tourist activity that we get, sort of all of the numbers of people that are here. What are your concerns? Do you have the resources, looking around you and talking with the various agencies?
Well, I think we have the resources unless we get so many starts at one time, a lightning storm or something, and then at that point in time we'll get strapped and we'll use the mutual aid. We'll use our cooperators from the Nevada side even. We'll pull all the key thing is to try to lessen the number of starts, and you're going to, like you said, you're going to talk about that in the second half from the public side. And it's kind of a crapshoot with the lightning. I mean, that's something you can't control that. And if you get too many starts, you can be overwhelmed. And when the fuels are this dry, it'll happen sooner than it might happen in a normal year with precipitation.
Now, you mentioned earlier the recently budgeted National Fire Plan. Can you tell us about that and what, if anything, did you get any goodies out of that? Or? Yeah,
we did get some goodies for sure. I think the biggest one is a Type 1 crew here in Truckee, which is national level crew, real top-notch kind of experience and leadership. I think that's kind of the biggest thing we did get. We had an engine coming our way, but we did not get the apparatus. So we did hire some folks to add to that engine. We have 5 engines here on our east side, which includes Sierraville and Truckee. We have 4, and we were going to add 1 more, but we probably will not get that till next year. So the ramp up is over 3-4 years. By 2004, we'll have all the things that we want. That engine will be one of them. We're going to add another prevention tech in the future, but the big difference this year for us is adding that hand crew here in Truckee.
Now, I know that the California Department of Forestry and Truckee Fire share a facility out by the airport. Does the Forest Service share in any of that as well, or?
Not at this time. We do have stations, though, where we do share equipment.
Okay. Right. We cross-train, and we have wildland preparedness exercises where we work together. So we are, again, ramping up for this season.
Okay. All right. How concerned should we be? I don't want this to be a fright show.
I would say there is a strong correlation with dry springs and active fire seasons. And we had a dry spring, so we don't want to scare people, but we want them to be prepared. And as I think can get in the second episode about dealing with clearance around structures, and then people being aware. You may see, again, May 29th, we closed dooryard burning throughout California, and the earliest in my career that I can remember that happening. So even at the state capitol level in Sacramento, they are very concerned about the potential for this year.
And as we should all be.
Yes.
We just have another moment. I want to wrap this segment up, but we will be talking about homeowners protection in the next segment. Can you just talk a little bit about what people should be looking for out in the national forests? What are, aside from lightning strikes, what are some typical starts, and what should people be very cautious about?
They should be very cautious of their off-road vehicles and where they take those off-road vehicles. I think that's really key. And then where they decide to have will be, and there's you know, we're going to be going into fire restrictions earlier this year probably than we have in a long time. Yeah. So for now, people are allowed to start fires, you know, out in the undeveloped campground areas or areas that they normally camp along lakes or streams, but that may be coming to an end later this month. So really watch where you start a fire, and if you are going to start a fire, clear the area that you need to clear 10 feet, and you know, have a rock pit kind of area that you've created, and do those kinds of things, and you'll be safe. But like I said, we will have fire restrictions earlier than normal this year. Okay, John, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us on tonight's show. Doug, thank you as well.
Thank you.
Welcome to the area. We'll be back in just a moment with more on fire preparedness, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. We're talking about fire assessment, and on this half of the show, fire prevention. And it's my pleasure to introduce you to Tina Rose. Tina is with the California Department of Forestry. Welcome, Tina.
Hello.
Tim McCauley from the Forest Service. Tim, nice to have you on the show.
Thanks for having
And
me.
of course, our very own Gene Welch from Truckee Fire. Gene, nice to have you on the show.
Right.
Right, we're talking about fire prevention, forest fires in and around their home. And of course, we have folks who live in the middle of town. We need to be talking about what they can be doing to protect their homes. And then there's more and more homes now that interface with the wildland areas. And so, Tina, let's start with you and talk about what people should be thinking about this summer.
Well, if they're living in the city, the single most important thing that I can think of to tell those residents is to have a working smoke alarm. To have a working smoke detector. A lot of people have smoke detectors in their homes, but they're not working. It's the most valuable possession of any home.
So test your fire alarms, your
Test
smoke
it.
detectors, make sure that they're working.
Right, and we recommend that you test it once a month, and we recommend that you replace your battery every 6 months. When the time change occurs, change your battery. It's the one thing that's going to wake you when there's a fire in your home. Most people will think that the fire would wake them up or the smoke would wake them up. Well, that's not going to happen. The only way you're going to wake up is if that smoke detector goes off and warns you and your family to get out.
To get out of the home. Tim, with the Forest Service now, you're seeing more and more private land sort of encroaching or expanding out into the wild areas. How does that affect your job, and what are you educating people about?
One of the most important homeowners to remember as they move more into the wildland is that they need to create a defensible space around their property. They need to clear the brush, mow the grass, and if they can use plant species that are less flammable, and to move things away from their structure that are flammable, like firewood.
And the term defensible space is really thrown out a lot, but not everybody understands what that means. Can you explain that a little?
It means as a fire would approach that structure, it would give firefighters an area in which to work to
So
save
a
that
break
structure.
between the other fuel and your home, which
Correct.
you're hoping is not fuel for the fire.
Right, correct.
Gene, how about you? Now, you're a public safety information officer with Truckee Fire. What are you telling people when you go out and work with them?
We concentrate on defensible space as well. It's very important that they have an area cleared around their house that not only will allow the fire department to protect their home, but they may be in a situation where they'll have to protect their home. And that will allow them to have a defensible area. We'd like to think that we could have an engine at every house if there was a wildfire, but in reality, in the beginning, there's limited resources, and they may be forced to defend their own home.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the subdivisions. There are different areas within Truckee, for instance, where the subdivision keeps an eye on some of the fuel. I know Tahoe Donner has historically done a job of that. I'm not familiar with what they're doing now. But do you rely on the homeowners associations, or do you use them to get the word out to various homeowners?
We try and work with them. We'll attend meetings, get information out. We hand out written information. They're a good tool to address the public with. And some of the associations, such as Tahoe Donner's Homeowners Association, does have a forester that they use all summer that tries to prepare fire breaks around the subdivision.
And lets people know which trees need to come down, if any.
Yes.
And for folks that are living on private land, perhaps outside of a homeowner subdivision, may not be thinking in terms of clearing their area. In fact, many people moved here to be close to the trees, and they want their house nestled in the trees. The trees provide shade, they provide privacy. How do you educate those folks? How do you let them know the importance of clearing an area? And I'll open that up to all of you.
We're not asking or suggesting that every homeowner make a barren circle around their home, a green belt, a cleared space, a defensible space, not a totally complete barren desert around their home. There's ways to make your home accessible but still have the natural beauty around your home and privacy.
Is this something that a homeowner could contact one of your agencies?
You know, I was going to recommend, we have a free video available to any resident who wants to come and check it out. It's called Fire Safe Inside and Out. It's available at the fire stations, and it is an excellent video to watch, and it shows you planting fire-safe plants and making a green belt around your home. And then it focuses on fire safety inside your house also.
Well, let's talk about inside the home a little bit. And Jean, I'm going to flip back over to you for a minute. Tina mentioned, of course, having smoke detectors, fire alarms in the home, making sure they're operating is the first step. What are some other recommendations you make to homeowners?
As a specific homeowner, you need to have a escape plan. And because of the area that we live in, with so many people coming up and staying, it's important that they know when they arrive to develop an escape plan. And those of us that live here full-time, as we vacation elsewhere, we need to practice that as well. So when somebody comes into a home, they need to make sure that the alarm is working, the smoke alarm is working, or if they're staying in a motel, make sure the smoke alarm is working. They may have only come in one direction. They need to know 2 ways out. They need to make sure they have a meeting place so that they'll know when they get outside the home that everyone is accounted for and what number they do call. In our area, of course, it's 911, but some people from other areas may not be familiar with that. So I think that's one of the important things that they need to learn. It's been said that through studies, there's only 17% of the people that actually practice a home escape plan. And that's very important to do.
Yeah, as I'm listening to all of you, I'm thinking back to my house, and I'm thinking, well, darn, you know, that one smoke detector in my downstairs hallway was beeping the other night, and it woke me up, and I went back to sleep, and I didn't bother to go back and check the battery, and I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking, well, my cat and I have never practiced a fire escape plan, and I'm sure she doesn't know how to get out, and I've got to talk to her about that. But seriously, I don't think people really dedicate time to this, and yet with a good plan, you sort of mitigate the hysteria that would otherwise ensue if your home were engulfed.
And with our area, too, they need to know 2 ways out of their subdivision.
That's a good point. Now, oftentimes visitors come up, they're not really familiar with the area, so perhaps people that rent their homes out should have a plan posted by the door, by the kitchen, information for people that rent their homes.
That would be very helpful.
You know, many times we respond to house fires, and the children in the house, if they haven't practiced their escape plan, they hide from fires in closets or under beds because they're scared of the fire, and they think if they'll hide from it, the fire won't get them.
Right.
They haven't practiced an escape plan to know to crawl low under smoke, fill their door, and go out the window if they have to.
Tim, let's talk a little bit about the forest. We've been talking about homes and residences, but your job is fire prevention tech for the Forest Service.
Correct, for the
so
Truckee district.
what does that mean? How do you go about your job, and what are you trying to prevent?
Well, one of the most important things I can do is just to get the word out to the public to be safe with fire when they visit the wildland. And one of the main things I'd like to remind them about is when they visit the lakes and reservoirs around Truckee that there are fire restricted areas that are day use only, no camping and no campfires. And actually campfires, that means cook stoves and any open flame essentially. And
So
a lot of people don't know that when they visit there.
if they're visiting, if we have visitors watching this or people who are interested in camping out, they should stop by the ranger station and pick up information on that? Or?
Exactly, information, maps are available, and there's always someone there at the front desk that can answer all their questions.
All right, and obey the posted rules. I think if any year has been particularly indicative of some potential problems, this is it. And we just didn't have enough water, and the reservoirs are a clear example of that. You go to
Yes.
fish on the reservoir, and you have to
Right.
walk twice as far as you ever did before.
Right.
Anything else that you would have for our audience, other concerns or other tips that you can provide to have people be on the alert or be thinking about for this summer season?
I know our number one cause of fires is from equipment use, and that could be chainsaws, like the previous segment, off-road vehicles. All equipment needs to have spark arresters. If you're using equipment in the forest during fire season, you have to have a spark arrestor on that. That's the number one cause of fires.
Lawnmowers?
Lawnmowers. We've had 7 in 1 week down the hill a little ways. 7 fires caused by lawnmowers.
So again, a good time to be thinking really about any equipment that you use outside.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Proper disposal of ashes is also another big problem. People that are using barbecues and then they'll dump their coals out, and they don't want it to be unsightly, so they find a bush to dump it under. People that empty their ashes out of their wood stoves and fireplaces.
Yes. Yeah.
Visitors in this community like to have a fire, even though we feel it's warm, but they'll build a fire at night and then they try to dispose of those ashes, and that can cause a fire. They need to be put in a metal container and left in the metal container for a minimum of 3 days. Personally, I leave mine in for a week before I dispose of them because the hot embers inside that environment.
Yeah.
And if they put them in paper bags or boxes, put them in plastic trash cans, it can start a fire. And what we're concerned about here this time of year is a structure fire that will turn into a wildland fire.
There's enough fuel out there to really be triggered by any number of causes.
Yes.
So again, a lot of it's common sense stuff, but it's just a good reminder. You know, ashes, you need to hang on to them. Please don't dump them carelessly. Not paper bags, not boxes, but in a metal can. Keep it covered.
Metal container with a lid.
With a lid. For a minimum of 3 to 5 days?
Yes.
Okay. And again, check your home equipment. This is a great time, it's a good reminder to go around and check all of your smoke detectors, your alarms, and practice your family escape plan in your home. Include your whole family and make sure that you have the meeting place where you'll all meet. And then actually practice it. Don't just talk about it, but
And
put it
if
through
there's
the
anybody who
motions.
doesn't know how to do an escape plan, just have them contact one of our offices and we'll provide them with information.
Again, a lot of resources. You've got the California Department of Forestry, you've got the United States Forest Service, and you've got our very own Truckee Fire right here. And all of these are tremendous resources for fire prevention, fire assessment also. You find out if your home is in fact defensible, and so that's a great way to do it. I thank you all very much for being on the show, and let's keep our fingers crossed that we don't keep you too busy this fire season. But thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Maya.
you for joining us on Truckee Talks. Again, you want to make sure that your home and the area surrounding it is fire safe this season. And if you have any questions on that, don't be shy about contacting any of the local agencies. They'll help you out with that. Thanks for joining us on Truckee Talks, and we'll see you next time.